Welcome to the Old Okie Workshop. I'm Richard. I made a video called 4 Router Tables in which I showed off my router tables over the years. The first router table was just the router itself with its little base sitting on the edge of the workbench. Then I built a router table into the table saw. And then I had one that went in my woodworking vise, which was a little bit bigger than that one. And then I made the biggest router table in the world. It's actually a part of the assembly table. So the way this setup works is there's a plate here and the assembly table that comes out, and then down into this hole goes the router, like so. I got to drop the cord in there, got cord management to get done and so on. But the big disadvantage of it is, and it worked great by the way, the big disadvantage though is that every time I want to change the router bit, I've got to take this out of here, and this plate was attached to this box by these latches. Okay, I'm going to take this out of here, and I have to manage the cord, and I have to change the bit, put it back in there, put it down in there, and I didn't like that. So my plan is to take this box and permanently mount it underneath here. Okay, permanently mounted underneath there, and then this plate and the router, as you see it right there, that's going to just sit down, you know, like that on there, with this box being down in there. Okay, so that's the plan. But now I'm thinking about how to get this done, and I'm thinking that I want to lower these supports by an amount that's equal to a plate that I'm going to put in here. So I'll put a plate on this, and it will sit on the supports, and then this guy will sit on top of that. So I think that's what I'm going to do. First thing to do is to cut those plates. I need 2 of these, and I'm making these out of 1/2-inch plywood. And now over to everybody's favorite chore, sanding the edges at my little sanding station. This is the top of the assembly table, and this top comes off. I made it that way so I could just take it off if I wanted. It's just held on by these little gizmos here. Okay, so take it off, and I flipped it over this way. Okay, so this used to be down here, and now it's right here. So this is the way the router fits in here. And originally this box was attached with those latches right here, but I've taken the latches off. So I'm going to remove this, okay, and put it over here. Now this is the router, and how the router fits in there. This is the plate, 3/4-inch plywood, same as this plywood right here. So I've got these brackets that go across the edges, and I've got those removed, so I'll just take those out of the way. And then that kept this router and its associated box from falling through, right? Okay, so here it is, this little guy right here. And so what I've decided to do is I'm going to use 1/2-inch. So I'm going to, for the router, I'm going to use 1/2-inch plywood instead of 3/4-inch plywood. So here goes that piece is going to be in there, and the router is going to be attached to that. And then the box will be attached to this guy right here, which also fits in there. See, be a hole in there for the router to come through, and this box then will be attached like so. So I've got to attach this box to this flange plate here and cut a hole in it, and then I've got to attach the router to its new faceplate, which is down here. And then the other thing I got to deal with is that this is now 1 inch, these two combined, the faceplate or the plate of the router and this flange for the box at 1 inch. So now these have got to be raised up 1/4 of an inch for them to fit. But I got some other issues with that, which I'll talk about later. I've got the top of the box made with the hole in it. Apply glue to it, to the top of the box. Place the box on its top, glue it up, clamp it, let the glue dry. Now I've got to mark the holes for the new router plate using the old one. Drill the holes, drill the big hole, and then attach it to the router. There's the new plate on the router. Here comes the box with its new top plate. Router goes into the box. Everything fits nicely, and that is finished. So here's where I am in the project. I've got the router plate mounted to the router. It goes in here like this, and then the box. This is for the purpose of vacuum, right? That's the deal. Got a hole here for the vacuum. Okay, so this goes over here, nice tight fit on the router plate. And then, remember, this is upside down, so now this wants to fall this way out. So I got these blocks here, but now this is about 1/4 inch too high because this is a 1/2 inch thick instead of 3/4 of an inch thick. So I got to figure out what about that. And I am not confident that I can get that some kind of spacer in here that's just perfect for having the router plate exactly even with the top of this table. So now the plan would be to do this from underneath, and this will raise and lower this guy, you know, by turning like that. But I need a nut in there. I'm drilling a hole to place a 1/4 inch nut in there that has a nylon insert in it. Last night I did a couple of things. I painted the router plate white, a couple of coats. Then these blocks that are going to go underneath here to hold this up, I took the nylon insert threaded 1/4 inch bolts, or nuts, they're nuts, okay, and then I put a bolt in there for alignment purposes through that hole, and I put that in there, and then I put a little dab of CA glue on each flat, and I hit it with some accelerator, and I did it a second time, and that is stuck in there good. I'm using my crosscut sled to make some little spacer blocks to put the support blocks on, and then underneath the edge of the box I'm CA gluing some little metal tabs for the adjusting screws to ride against. I've reached a milestone. I've got little spacers that I cut in here. The original blocks are put down. The nuts with the nylon insert are in there. These are tightened down onto the little piece of aluminum that I put there. And we're all good to go, except that I got to get this out of here. I got it out of there. So now pull the router out. Okay, just set it right here for the time being. Now all I have to do is fasten these guys down and turn the table over and wrap that, drop that in there, and that should complete this part of the improvement of the router table. All right, I got the tabletop turned over, the latch is done, all solid. Now it's ready for the fit. So this goes down in here, like so. All right, this goes down in here, like this. And voila, installed. Now, I can already tell, I got a little adjusting to do, right? So this is way high. This is low, so let's see what we got under here. I got a little, oh, I can feel that coming up. Yes. Oh, that is so sweet. What's back here? This one goes down a little. Oh my gosh, that's working out great. I have cord management to do because I got to figure out how to get that cord out of there. And once I get that done, I'll be good to go for the part 2 of this project, which is the fence. I got to do something about that. Okay, now that I've got this all set up here and I've adjusted it with the screws, and man, I'm telling you, it's just absolutely perfect. Okay, so now number 2 is the fence, and this is what I've been using for the fence. I usually clamp this end down, and this end over here I can adjust. So that's cool, that works all right. And just use the knob underneath there to tighten it all down. But I'm gonna change that. So I got all that figured out, and so this piece of plywood, I have checked this edge with a straight edge, and it is straight, and it is about the length I need. I want this to ultimately be 3 inches wide, so I'm going to rip some 3 3/4 inch strips out of this, and then I'm going to laminate those together, and this is 1/2 inch Baltic birch plywood. This is what's known as perfect parking. This is actually a reenactment because I didn't record it the first time. But there you go. Okay, now I'm gluing up these 2 strips that I've cut, and spreading a little bit of glue there and put them together, but I'm not going to align these along their edges, their long edges. I'm going to let the top board hang over the bottom one a little bit, because I'm going to run them back through the saw to absolutely true them up. It's too hard to get those things. So you see that space that I've got the top board moved over from the bottom one. All right, clamp it up and wait for it to dry. Now it's time to get those edges straight. So back to the saw, run it through with that perfectly straight edge against the fence, turn it around and run it through again on the other side, and now both sides are perfectly aligned and the base is ready to go. Here's the fence base, I'm going to call this. It's been trimmed on both sides, and it's really heavy. Shows you what many layers of this Baltic birch will do for you, 1 inch thick. So I'm very happy with that. Good and straight, checked it. Okay, so the plan now is to place the actual fence on top of this, and underneath that will be these 2 strips of 1/2 inch. Okay, so then this goes on top of this. All right, and then this will eventually get cut in half. This will be the in-feed fence, and this is the out-feed fence down here. So but in the meantime, what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these together, and then I'm going to take these little guys and I'm going to put them up against this. Oops. Put this in this manner, and then I'm going to clamp them like this. Okay, and then I'm going to bang some nails in there to make sure they stay good together and glued together. And then after that, of course, move those over here, and I'll glue this little guy on somehow or another. I don't know exactly how, but anyway, I'll eventually wind up with this guy, which you know, like I say, will be cut in half and rest upon this base. Well, I've got all this clamped up, and I got some good squeeze out there, looks like, and so I'll take these clamps off, cut this in half. I've already cut the 2 pieces of fence in half here, so then I'll be ready to attach these, and then we have some trickiness to do on this little part right here, the left fence. Thought I'd show what happens on glue, squeeze out, clean up, if you catch it just perfect. This comes off in all these little beads. There you go. Lucky. 3/4 inch strips, glued those up right. I cut that part in half. This is going to be right here, and then this little guy is going to go on top of that, and the bottom here will be attached to make the in-feed fence, the right fence, and then that'll be attached to the base. Okay, but on this side things are different because occasionally you need this guy to come out, right? So in order to get that to come out, I've got this sliding idea that I'm going to do here, and so I'll cover that next. Well, this is the left side, the outfeed fence, and I did all these calculations about moving this and having it come out. Here's some stuff, and here's some more stuff. I went crazy making these diagrams. Anyway, I decided that for 1 inch of movement, I want this fence to come out 1/16 of an inch. So 2 inches will get you out 1/8 of an inch. And then in the meantime, on let's see, so if I move it 1/2 an inch, this will come out 1/32 of an inch, right? Then 1 inch will get me 1/16, 1.5 inch will get me 3/32, and 2 inches will get me 1/8. And then if I need more than that, my plan is to take a spacer of some sort and put it in there. Okay, like this is exactly 1/8 right here. So I put this little spacer in here and then bring this back and start the process all over again, and all my measurements would be increased by 1/8. That's the plan anyway. So I've laid this out in 20 inches of length right here. I'm going to have, I need this distance here. I'm going to do it up here. From right here on the corner, I need this to be 1.25 inches, because that's what the slope is in 20 inches, all right? So then, but I don't want a piece of, this little triangle up here, so I move that all down 1 inch, and here's my final slope that I'm going to have here. So the next job then is to cut this right down this line. I want to cut this now at this angle, but I got to figure out what that angle is, and I know that the distance along this edge right here is 20 inches, and this is 1 1/4, and that happens to be the same ratio as 1/16, duh, because it's 1 inch and 1/16. So anyway, it's 1/16. So 1/16, half is, I think, like 50. 1/4 is 25. Half of that's 12.5. Half of that is 6 1/4. So it's 0.0625. That's the tangent of this, okay? So now I got to find out what that angle is, so I need to find the arctan of 0.0625. And the way I would do that back in my day is I'd get out my handy dandy table of integrals and other mathematical data, and I would look that up. So in this table, I would look that up, 0.06221, okay? And that is telling me that it is 3.56 degrees. Now, the other cool way to do it is, back in the day, one of these. Did you know we're going back to the moon? That's how we got to the moon. So, I'd look up 0.0625 on the D scale is right there. I read it on the SRT scale. Let's stand a chance to read this. 3.5, I'm getting 3.58. So 3.56, 3.58, that's pretty good. I guess the easy way to do it, the boring way to do it, would be to say, hey, Google, what is the arctan of 0.0625, and see what I haven't done that. So I've got to cut that angle on the left side fence, and here's my handy dandy taper jig. So I'm going to have to loosen this up and set that at 3.6 degrees. 3.56 degrees. So here we go. 3.56 degrees is right there. Perfect. Lock it down. And we're all set to go. Well, that turned out unbelievably well. So got a little deal going on here. Push this down, it comes out as you can see. So that's cool. And I allowed for this saw curve, you know, coming out of here for the width of this thing, and I was going to trim it off, but golly, that turned out so well. I don't even need to do any truing up on the edge there. So, all right, well, we'll continue to assemble things. I've got the little strips glued on here now. Well, this piece goes here on a permanent basis, and then here, same thing, got the strips glued on, but in addition to that, I have cut some slots for the movement of this piece back and forth. Is a 1/2 inch wide, so I'm going to be using carriage bolts to go through there. But the idea is on the 1/2 inch is that, you know, I might want to put a spacer in there. So if I put a spacer in, it's going to move this thing over. So allow a little cushion room for that. So the next thing to do is going to be to install these carriage bolts like so underneath there. And these are the knobs that will go on there to tighten it down when I move it. And then make this down and make this down and cut to length, and I believe we'll be finished. I need to set up a pivot point here, which I think I'm going to do with a T-nut, just a T-nut and a 1/4 inch bolt. Put the T-nut underneath here. So that ought to work on that end, and then on the other end, I got to figure out how to make some kind of a clamp arrangement down here. Got to turn the tabletop over again to whack in the T-nut. So banged it in with a hammer. Then I put a couple of screws on each side of it just to keep it in place, so it wouldn't turn and it wouldn't come out. One of the last things I did was to install this switch here, multi-outlet switch. Got a little switch on it there, and that way I can turn the router and the vacuum on at the same time. And this little bitty vacuum is amazing, the power this thing has got. And there's a hole in this box that the router sits down in, and this just fits right in there like that. And I'm telling you that when I cut those 1/2 inch slots in the movable part of the fence, there wasn't one speck of any material that showed up on the top of the workbench. It all went right straight down into that router box and into the vacuum. So there you go. Just turn the thing on, and both of them turn on, both of them turn off. Easy to get to unplug the router. That's important. I'm getting a phone call. Well, I guess that's about it. The wraps are up. Things worked out pretty good for the dude and his router table. I've got the pin in here for the pivot point. I've got a C-clamp down here because I never could figure out how to put a bolt down through here and attach it underneath, and one of the reasons for that is because, well, if I need to take this out, this has got to go that far, and a pin is going to hit the edge of this, and you know, it's not going to make it. So I'm going to deal with that for the time being. I don't think that's a big deal. So goes, more, comes out a 1/16 of an inch. That would be an 1/8 of an inch. If I take a straight edge, run it along there, there you go. And then if you do this, that's got a little gap in there. Put it back, put it down, Sweet. Okay. So that worked out very well. Well, that completes the router table upgrade project. Thanks for watching.